smooth it out, but I'm really not trying to make anything. I just wanted to show you different cuts. This one here is a veiner. I like using it quite a bit.
If you were new to carving, what tools would you recommend starting out?
It depends on what you're going to carve. Like caricature carvers use more of like a 9 sweep, probably about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch size for doing faces and things like that. Bird carvers or animal carvers, they're using more power tools to get the fur and stuff. And like I do a lot of flowers is what I usually do, or baskets or something like that. And I usually use a variety of sizes of 3s, a few sizes of 5s, and veiners and V-tools. And then I have some of my 3s and 5s skewed, and they're bent so I can get up underneath the petals and carve them, because you can see I really do get underneath the leaves and petals.
Charlie, what do you use to minimize tear out? Sharper tools?
Sharp tools, and know the grain. And don't expect just because the grain doesn't go straight, it waves up and down, and it's a feel in your tool. You can feel when it's giving, and like basswood is very soft, so you can see right there I was starting to crush the wood. It was starting to tear. And so I would come and I'd bring it over like this. That's my Ellsworth grind. I didn't know it was called that. I've been doing that for probably 20 years that I've been sweeping them that way. But then I can come across like this and scoop it. That's why I like veiners, is because you have a 3 sweep, a 5 sweep, and then a really deep sweep. So you have a lot of variance on it. So I come in here like this, thinking about which way, if the wood gave out, which it can. You think, oh, I've got plenty of wood, I don't need to worry about my thumb. But yes, you do, because that could split off on you. So you want to put your hand out of the line of fire. And I know a lot of people wear gloves, and I had one up here. And I've probably had this nice glove for many years. The one I have at home that I use more, I was able to cut the fingers off, but most gloves fit me about like that. The fingertips are really long, and with the flowers, it would snag on things and break my petals off that I worked really hard. So if I could cut the fingers off of this, I would probably use it, because where you cut yourself isn't any place other than right here in the palm of your hand. If you're going to slip, like sometimes I'll carve like this, and I'm trying to carve under my hand, and I've got my thumb on it like this. I don't know if you can see that in there. But my thumb is guiding it away from my hand most of the time, so I'm not going to hit my fingers. I've always had, I've had stitches 3 times in my hand, no 4, 3 times, and it was all on the same sunflower clock, and I had my hand way over here, and I was carving under a petal, and both times it was the same petal, the grain changed, and then it just snapped off the petal, and I slipped and stabbed myself here, here, and here. Years apart, but same thing. I thought, oh, my hand's way over here. I'm not. And that was when I was first learning to carve. And now, if I'm pushing away, I've got my hand, took a few times. And then somebody I was handing, it was a turner in my class, and I was handing him a mallet tool. And when I handed to him, I handed him the handle, and he just took it out of my hand. And these are sharp. All they have to do is touch your skin, and they will cut you. You'll get a paper cut, or you'll need stitches, one of the two. Yeah, that's what's annoying. You get these little tiny cuts, and they don't really bleed except for when you put pressure on it, so you get all these red spots like you're painting. But if you carve like this, a lot of people think, oh, this is dangerous. You're going to stab yourself. Well, yeah, if you're going like this, but if you're got your arm into it and you're really pulling on it, you're going to go like this. You're not going to, if you have two hands on it, then you would. But this is really pretty safe. Now, it's not if you have a knife in your hand. I wouldn't use a knife that way. You always want to carve away from yourself. And I think I have one knife with me. I don't use a lot of knives, but a lot of people, they'll carve like this towards their thumb. I think that's crazy. I like to put my thumb lower than what I'm carving on, so it'll go over my thumb. I never carve towards my thumb. And the other way is to put your hand like this, and it's controlled. You never go like this when you're carving. That's very dangerous. Your tool could fly out of your hand, and you never want to have a death grip on it. You can remove quite a bit of wood just like that. And I'm using my thumb as a pivot point to press against. So you can get rid of wood very quickly, but usually I use a knife for coming in here and cutting corners out that none of my tools will quite work in. But I wanted to go over different cuts with you. When you're going across the grain like that, you can see that one side of the tool, as you get deeper and deeper, is turning the wood white right there. And the other side has a nice dark crisp cut to it. And so when I know that, then I will lay the tool on that side, and then I'll come back and go the other direction to clean it up. The other type of cut you want to work with is like with a 3 or something. You never just want to go straight into the wood and try to go across it. It's hard to do. What you want to do is start at one corner of the tool and just go like this and slide from one side of it to the other. Yes, it's a slicing cut. And you get a nice clean cut out of it. And it's not hard to do.
Do you ever use rotary tools?
I do, but it's more for cleanup than anything else. Like when I've got my flowers pretty much done, then I've got some 3-in sanding discs. They're plastic, and they've got a grit embedded into them, and there's different grades of it. And I like to go and clean up. If I put one on, I like to clean up lines with that to get the fuzzies out. And then if you stack 3 of them together, you can clean up a lot of rotary marks, like on that poinsettia sled. That would have been really good to work with that. And then they've got what's called Googie sanding cones. And that's the guy that invented it. His last name is Googie. And they're a cone, and there's different grits. And I super glue it onto the bit that you're supposed to use for it. It looks like a bit that has a little screw at the end of it. And you're supposed to just slide it on there. It's supposed to stay, but it never does for me. So I usually put a few drips of super glue inside of it and then glue it onto the screw that way. And it usually stays, and I can usually use it up. But yes, a slicing cut, you really, and then there's a splitting cut like I was doing earlier where I wanted to split the wood off to get rid of a bunch of it, and you would stick it in there and then pop it up.
And you're letting the wood tear out?
Yes, I'm wanting it to, and I probably would come along here and clean it up because I wanted to keep that edge. My husband's supposed to make a bench so it doesn't tip. This is for motorcycles. but there's not enough hours in the day. But you can see how going from one side to the other is much easier. And I usually hold the tool like this and put my finger over it so I don't have to have a death grip on it. It's really comfortable in my hand. And then I can just push it along. And some of my tools I've gone over to the grinder and taken this hard edge off. And these are painted with fingernail polish. Because when I'm in a carving class, I loan my tools out to the students to use. And invariably, they would somehow get put in with their tools because they all look alike. And they might have one of their own, and then this way, they don't look like theirs. They're bright red with an ugly blue color on top of it that clashes. So it's real obvious. So it didn't take me long to remove that wood. And what I'd probably do is round that over so it looked like it was thinner. But this is something that went flying off the lathe. And I went through the bottom of it. So it's just a junk piece of wood that I probably could put a bottom on it and chuck it up, but I was too mad at it after it went flying. Had it all sanded and I was trying to hollow it out, and boom, it went flying.
So now that you've got all your little scoops in there, you use your skew to clean it up?
Yeah, you could use the skew, the flat skew chisel, because there's skew gouges as well, because the tools don't come like that. I kind of grinded them that way so that I could actually get underneath in the pedals and work, because you can only come at it at certain angles, otherwise you're just going to tear it off. So you had to figure out a way how to scoop it out underneath there without breaking it. And I've tried using a rotary tool on that, but it's too easy to hit the pedal underneath of what you're trying to get clean up. So if you hit the top and the bottom of something, something's going to give, and it's usually whatever's on top. So that's why I started skewing them to make it work.
You're going to put a texture on that right now. You leave it flat, or you start with the scoop?
If I was to texture the outside edge, I could use the flat chisel to do that, to make it perfectly flat once I got it all removed, and I would probably go like this.
Get it all flat before you put a texture or whatever.
Correct. So you can see I was starting at the corner again and doing a nice curled, and this has got a nice scratch in it, so it's making a nice scratch on mine. And this is a Swiss. Two Cherry and Henry Taylor take a lot longer to sharpen because the steel is a lot harder. Swiss isn't too bad. You can usually sand it away fairly quickly. But that's fairly flat now. But using that corner and slicing it down, I'm kind of arcing it. So I would say right in there, it's fairly flat, a few chisel marks still. And this one, I can do it pretty much right from here down, but now I need to go upward. They need it to be, well, right there, it wants to go the other way. But it's fairly smooth. You could sand it smoother if you really wanted to. But that's pretty much as far as I would go with that. I don't know how much time we've got left. I think I'm going to go over to the sharpening because there's going to be a lot more questions with that. And the biggest question I do get with carving is, You're not supposed to carve towards yourself. Well, yeah, you don't want to do this, but to go like this to flick your wrist, you've got more control over it. And when I'm doing a long cut, I never try to follow the line completely down. I do short, choppy, controlled cuts. I never do this and try to just power through the wood. First off, I'm not strong enough usually to do that. And secondly, if you're putting a lot of pressure on it, you can easily slip with the tool and cut yourself, especially if you're holding it in your hands. But it's too easy to cut yourself, or the wood gives way and then it breaks off, and then you're going to cut yourself because you were pressing so hard that you can get a serious cut that way. And whenever you give a tool to somebody, you either set it down and they take it, or they grab a hold of it. You take your hand away and then you move it away. Don't just rip it out of somebody's hand, because you'll cut them pretty seriously.